You fit perfectly within my dichotomy of interviews. So I'm looking forward to it.
Great, great. Happy to chat with you.
Well, cool. Well, it's great to meet you. And I'd like to begin our conversation before we get into your work and your life by asking, 4 years ago, we were getting our head wrapped around the whole COVID thing. How did you survive the pandemic and how did it change you?
I was an early. I was blessed early with COVID, with the virus, and actually went through the transfusion treatment in probably March of the first year. When we were just originally doing, just getting started, and so I was one of the lucky ones because I came out of that really well. And so from a personal standpoint, yes, we were impacted, and yes, I had some concern as to my health, long-term health. The other part of COVID, I would say, from a work standpoint, Joe, it accelerated, it compressed 6 to 10 years of working online and working virtually into 6 months.
Yeah.
So I was teaching at Butler. I've been an adjunct professor there for 20 years after I retired from the company that I worked for a long time, and I loved it. And some of it was online. I was doing a little online, but not a lot. And then everything went online.
Yeah.
And so that was just a huge, being part of that and putting all your curriculum and all your class interaction and all the things you get out of robust discussions live, taking all that to online was a big change. That was tough. However, as I just mentioned, I'm in two locations, right? And I did a lot of virtual work anyway, um, in my consulting business, et cetera, and in writing. And so it actually was an advantage. So even though it was a little pain in the butt to retread some of my courses on the other business side and informal side, the rest of the world kind of caught up with where I kind of wanted to be anyway.
Yeah.
Which is just fluidly working and connecting with people that we would not have otherwise been thinking about connecting because, oh, we got to fly to Kansas City to meet Joe.
Yeah.
No.
You can hop on a Zoom and do it. So let me ask you this. In 2024 right now, if you were in front of a bunch of third graders at career day and one of the kids asked, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
Uh, I teach. So for a third grader, I'd probably start by saying, yes, I'm a teacher. I've been a teacher and I've been a teacher in the university. And then I'm also a teacher when it comes to working with organizations and helping leaders or maybe other teachers get better at what they do. And so I think that the learning, the conveying learning and helping others be curious about what they can do better. So that's what I help people do. What can you get better at? And how can I help you get better at whatever that thing is?
So when you were in the third grade, what was your dream? What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to have a really cute girlfriend, Joe.
That's right. Amen.
And then I got lucky. I married a wonderful gal. We've been married 50 years. So uh, what did I want to be in third grade? I grew up, this is going to be a kind of a wonky answer maybe to you, but I grew up on a farm in Iowa. Were you an agricultural rooted guy or no?
No, no, but I
Well,
respect it.
well, yeah. So, but you're Kansas City, so you understand the Midwest and the
Oh yeah.
agricultural thing. So I grew out, as I'd say, 7 miles outside of a town of 700,
Yeah.
and it was remote. And from the time I can remember, I enjoyed the lifestyle. I mean, it was a good lifestyle, but I wanted to get the hell out of there. I wanted to go do something else and live my life differently.
Yeah.
I knew nobody of color. I knew nobody who wasn't Protestant. I married a Catholic girl. Oh my God, you're marrying a Catholic girl.
Yeah.
So it was from a very sheltered environment, yet I had parents who were just wonderfully nurturing and supportive of, you're a smart kid, you need to go to college and you need to do whatever you can do in the world. And so those combinations of backgrounds, I think early on it was, boy, there's a lot out there, even when I was in third grade, that I want to learn about. And most of that stuff isn't right here.
So a lot of the internal mechanisms of you being highly driven, teaching, and wanting to absorb what this world has was just kind of woven into your DNA from the word go.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And I think both of my parents, who were both bright, successful agricultural business people, wanted to go to college and they couldn't. Dad was in World War II. He got sidelined there. My mom was very bright. It just wasn't something she did in rural Iowa. And so I think those influences were, they gave us the opportunities, my sister and I, the opportunities they did not have. Um, so it was tough life, but I look back on it and I really, as I get older, Joe, I appreciate it more and more, and I appreciate the values and growing up in a farm business like that.
Yeah.
And so I think whatever your parents did for you, what's your answer, by the way? Not that I'm interviewing you, but what was
Oh,
your third grade dream?
my third grade, I wanted to be next to Poncherelli and Chips. I wanted to be on the California highway riding around as a
Oh,
cop.
oh, fantastic.
And then I saw later on in my life the actual real version of that, which was Cops, and I was like, no, thank you. I'm
Well,
not gonna do it.
I don't need to do that. But
Yeah.
did you get the motorcycle?
No, I never did. I just thought the whole motif was cool, and then I dropped out. And then it was really shortly after that, I've always been a sports fan. It was broadcasting. And this is my dream. This is what I always wanted to do, was to be in a capacity to broadcast and to delve into the stories of humans and that are doing interesting things. So yeah, I'm living it myself now.
Isn't that great? And
Yeah,
my word is curiosity. So
yeah.
I really appreciate and envy what you do, because you're spanning all sorts of topics and interests, and you can scratch that itch of curiosity, right, on a
Yeah.
daily basis.
Well, the one thing that I was thinking about in your lineage, wanting to get out of Iowa, because I know here in the Midwest, you get you feel like the walls are closing in because there's not a lot going on. What was the first city or place you went to where you just saw everything that you wanted to see and it really expanded your brain?
Um, I visited a couple cities, Chicago being one.
Yeah,
That was a big deal when I was in college. But the biggest experience for me was moving actually to Washington D.C. So out of University of Iowa, I got a graduate degree from the University of Iowa and went to and taught at American U. And so
yeah,
that move. I'm 25. I've
yeah,
just got my PhD. I'm going to teach at American University in D.C. The biggest city I've ever lived in is Iowa City.
yeah,
And so the East Coast and the culture of the city was, not only the politics, but people from all over the East Coast. And, there were people of different colors and different religions, and people in Embassy Row. American University is right at the upper end of Embassy Row. It was just great.
yeah,
It was like Linda and I were like kids in a candy store. It
yeah,
was great.
yeah.
And we
So,
would have stayed there, honestly, other than we had kids and we kind of said, yeah, let's get back to the Midwest and raise our kids, right?
yeah.
But we lived it, and we always thought we'd go back to DC actually to retire. Well, we ended up in Scottsdale, um, but yes, that would be the big city. To your question, that would be
Yeah.
the big city experience. That was an eye opener.
I've been up there a few times. I always love DC. Love the way it's spaced. I love the history. Everything, the subway system was wonderful. I had a great time going up by Georgetown and Howard and all of that. It was just, there was so much culture and life. You almost forgot that it was the nation's capital because there was all these satellite things that were flanking you.
Yeah, yeah. And it's kind of it was also confidence building, because the transition was difficult in some ways. New job, new friends, all that stuff. But we did that for 5 years, and then I said we can do just about anything. I mean, it was also confidence building in a weird way. And so when the company I worked for said, "Would you like to go to Hong Kong?" 20 years later, I said, "Sure."
Yeah,
Let's go to Hong Kong. We can do this. We'll pack up our kids and we'll go over and spend 4 years over there. And then that was after DC, the second biggest, obviously, huge cultural difference
yeah,
that was life impacting for us.
yeah. I can only imagine. Who's been kind of a hero or an inspiration in your life?
Well, starting with my parents, right? Um, Supporting my education, supporting the values that were important to being successful, hard work, doing your homework, being responsible. They were very influential. Um, I would say after that, influences in my life, some teachers, both high school and college, and coaches, athletic
Yeah,
coaches, music directors.
yeah,
We I had a choir. I was in an undergrad choir, and we were good. We toured Europe. We had a lot of fun. But the choir director, who was great, if you were a minute late for rehearsal, I mean, you just weren't, because he made it very clear that, we've got 50 kids in this choir, and if you're 1 minute late, you've just wasted 50 minutes. of
Wow.
time. And so he instills this accountability to other people that was in a very dramatic way. So nobody was ever late.
I had a teacher like that. I had a teacher like that in upper media class in college. His name was Pierre
Yeah.
Renair. And he was like, if you're late, you don't get paid today. If you don't turn an assignment, you're fired. He was like, this is
Wow.
media. If you want to go to CNN in Atlanta and you want to live this life, this is what they're going to do. So I'm giving you early course. Man, he created a lot of heartache in the beginning, but everybody fell into line. No one played him at all. But as hard as he was in front of the class, I remember going in and meeting him personally, and he had like posters of Australia up Sydney. And I always thought how glamorous and cool it would be to go there. And he just melted like butter on a biscuit. He was the nicest guy in the world when you got him behind closed doors and he was in office hours. But man,
But
when he got in front,
it was tough.
man, when he got in front of that room, and that was his job. You're not going to go into the media industry being soft. You have to have hard edges because it's a tough industry. And he was right. That was one of the reasons why I didn't pursue levels of media because I saw it firsthand and I was like, yeah, I don't think so. I'm going to do something a little bit different. And I went down kind of the more entrepreneurial, independent media route because in that environment, it's tough. But he
Yeah.
was the first person to really put it out there in that way, and I'm glad he did.
But when you expect, I mean, to go with that for a moment, when you
Yeah,
can expect high results, really good results, and responsibility and accountability, be on time and produce like crazy, and you can create a supportive environment,
yeah,
a nurturing environment that where people can thrive in that personally. Now you've got the magic of really being successful, right?
yeah,
So if he's got the personal touch and the support behind that, that makes difference. If he's just a hard ass, then
yeah. Right.
it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's not going to work. So in your career, you've had to give good advice to people around you. What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Listen, listen and be curious. First and foremost, listen first and understand who you're interacting with so you can understand their world and their context and make a contribution to whatever the conversation's about. And if you don't do that, you're not going to be able to influence them, right? Because you're
Yeah,
not going to be able to adapt to their understanding of what you're talking about, et cetera. So I think the biggest thing is listening. Um, in I don't know how much you dug into the book or the research that we've done, but um, my fundamental field research question, this is 8 or 9 years ago, is Joe, who do you know that when they walk into the room, makes everyone around them better? So Joe, who do you know? What person walks into the room and you want them there because you know that whatever you're doing, they're going to make things better. And so that research question, we asked people in 3 different sectors: sports, who do you want on the field or the court with you and why? Who
yeah,
do you want on the stage with you or on the music stage with you or the acting stage with you and why? And then who do you want in business in the conference room with you? So we did over 100 interviews in those 3 sectors. And so the answers we got boiled down then to the key competencies that are in our catalyst effect model. Um, and so the answer to your question, that's a long answer to your question, but is what are the skills and behaviors that somebody brings to the table when they are that kind of person
yeah,
that you want to have around you?
yeah. Well, I immediately had people that popped into my head, and that's
Yeah.
great. That's a
Give me
wonderful
an
answer.
give me an example.
One of my former my IT director that I've been working I work my day job is as an IT technician in a school district.
Hmm.
And the first boss that hired me had 2 criteria. I walked into a room, there was almost 15 people in there, totally unexpected, and I was on the spot. And I remember my IT director was across the room because there was principals and administrators, and he had 2 criteria I'll never forget. He said the 2 things that he's looking for is a willingness to learn and a good attitude. He said having technical acumen is great, but if you have those 2 things, that's what I'm looking for. And I love him. I mean, he was the guy that was like, you attract more bees with honey. He was just a very positive influence. And when he came in, he was a whiz, man. He made everybody comfortable. He could fix anything. He had a great attitude, and he was just a good dude. And everybody admired him for that. So when he walked in the room, you wanted him to walk in the room because he was that kind of guy that had that acumen.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Are you that kind of guy?
I hope so. I hope I make people feel
Yeah.
comfortable. I've learned
Yeah.
as I've gotten to be an older guy, I've learned how to shut up and listen and absorb it. and take time to really mull over it. But I think my thing as a technician is I want them to feel comfortable. My main thing that I tell people is I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to resolve the issue. Just put people at ease, and that's what they want. What is that?
Absolutely.
Well, there,
Absolutely.
yeah, there's a saying that says, um, you want people to remember how it's about how people remember you, and it's the way that you make them feel more than anything
Yes.
else.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah. How you, yeah, I'll remember how you made me feel, not
yeah,
necessarily what you told me, right?
right, or yeah, exactly, or what exactly you did, but it was the feeling that you left behind,
Yeah.
and I always remember that and think that's a good way to live your life.
Yeah. I had the privilege of meeting Yo-Yo Ma
Mm,
a few years ago when I was doing the leadership research, and I don't know Yo-Yo well, but I know some of the people that are in the Silk Road ensemble with him. I know them quite well. Yo-Yo does not lead that group. So you'd say, I mean, Yo-Yo's on stage, you got all this. No, he does not. They are in ensemble in the
yeah,
truest sense, and leadership moves from person to person, and he facilitates, and you can see his energy, and you can feel his energy. When I was with him at the symphony in Indianapolis, he truly acts that way. He doesn't need to be in charge. He wants to facilitate the music that they can make together. So that Silk Road Ensemble experience, I think, is a great artistic example that
yeah,
probably parallels your world of jazz uh,
yeah.
perfectly, right? Because leadership changes from instrument to instrument or vocalist to vocalist, and you build it while you're in process, and you follow each other and you listen really well.
Yeah, and the thing that I've noticed about all these jazz legends and luminaries, the higher up you go the food chain, the more humble they are. They are very
Yeah.
grounded, humble people, and they change the particles around them in a way that I've never known. Like there's a level of them that's almost a deity, so to speak. I mean, I've gotten off the phone with a couple of these people, and it's just like I have to take a minute because I'm like, I have never been around that level of human. Like I remember Dr. Lonnie Smith, the great Hammond B3
Mhm.
organ player. He was a level of spirituality and love and goodness that I'd never experienced. Now, his technical prowess and who he was as a musician was way out there, but the level of him just being grounded and tapping into being a human on this planet in a very kind way was unreal. Like I just came away thinking, I can't believe that I had this half hour with this person. And I think that someone like Yo-Yo Ma would embody that. When you get around them, they literally change everything around them based on the fact that they have embraced positivity. They are the ultimate existentialist of letting it go, not getting mired in the muck, and they live in the now, and they exude that to everyone that's around them.
That's really well said. They live in the now, they exude it, and everybody picks that up and feels that. And when
Yeah,
you can have that in the room, if you're focused now on a common goal, you're really powerful. Let
yeah.
let me let me jump to sports for a while because I
Oh
get
yeah.
excited about this
Please
stuff.
do.
Okay, so Shane Battier,
Yeah,
so player of the year at Duke,
yeah,
college player of the year at Duke, gets drafted by the Grizzlies. Does okay, but goes to the Rockets. And
yeah,
with the Rockets, he became known as the No Stats All Star.
yeah.
So Michael Lewis wrote an article about a decade ago titled "The No Stats All Star," and so Shane has been very influential in some of the work that I've done for that reason. So his stats at Houston, he wasn't in the box scores, most points, most rebounds, etc. But boy, when they dug into the stats, when he was on the floor, everybody around him played better. Well, then the next chapter of the story is he goes to the Heat, right? And LeBron is there, D Wade is there, Bosh is there, et cetera. And so he's a bit the straw that stirs the drink there as well. And so he's that no stats all star. He's that catalyst,
Hmm.
that person you want on the team in the room that makes everyone around him better. So I've been fortunate to maintain a casual relationship with Shane over the years, in part because I feature him in the book, um, and he gets that. He's able to articulate and talk about that now.
Yeah,
Where a decade ago, I don't think he had a clue.
yeah,
He just did what he did, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think about that with George Harrison. When you think about the Beatles, it was always Lennon and
Mhm.
McCarthy. And then Ringo was kind of back there doing his thing, and no one knew how good he was. But George was always that calm force. He was the one that pushed the spirituality envelope for the band. And he did things and got the sitar and got involved with things that the band probably wouldn't necessarily do, that was probably non-drug related. And he was really a glue that kept that thing going. And I've always maintained that George was probably the most essential Beatle in the group.
I think you're probably right. Yeah, and finally appreciated, right?
Yeah,
I think later in the era, and somebody, there's been some years ago, and somebody said, you know, Ringo's just a kick-ass drummer,
yeah,
and I said, really?
yeah. He is.
Because you know the Beatles songs, a lot of them early were just simple, right?
Yeah.
It didn't take a lot of percussion prowess, I didn't think, to do what they did, but it's true. You know, he's now more recognized for being a glue piece of that. And then of
It's
course, go ahead.
yeah, no, no, no. I was gonna say this is the interesting thing about all those guys. Someone told me this a while back, and it's verifiable. Of all of the members of the band that went on to solo careers, Ringo has sold the most albums out of all of them.
You're kidding me.
It's weird, isn't it?
More than Wings and McCartney.
Any of them. Yeah,
Oh man,
100%.
that's, no,
So
that's crazy.
I did interview a members of a band called Rain, and they're a Beatles cover band, and it was awesome. They were in an outdoor venue last year, and I got the chance to get a media pass and interview these guys, and we were talking about Ringo, and they played his music, and they're like, you have no idea what he was doing. He just made it look easy. He just was kind of, la di da, and kind of like a big kid,
Exactly.
just a big teenager. But what he
Yeah.
was doing was technically crazy. And all the little things that he was adding in there that you didn't have to add, and I've listened more to him specifically on the seminal albums. They were totally right. It's good.
So the question kind of becomes then, I mean, the verge of what we're talking about is how can we articulate that in a way that other people can look at that
Yeah,
and adopt or adapt some of what a person like that does.
yeah,
You know, not only technical skill, but the way they fit, you know, and Ringo's gift was not only being a great percussionist drummer, but also fitting really well
yeah,
and letting the guy shine. So part of my work and my excitement is around understanding how that works with teams, whether they're sports teams, but in particular business teams. So how do we talk about leadership and culture and a way of working together that provides the space for everybody to be a catalyst when they need to step up? So
yeah,
it's we lead from wherever we are, Joe.
yeah,
We don't need a position or a title or people reporting to us. If we're competent in a way that impacts our team performance, we're going to step up and lead from whatever chair we set in.
yeah,
You know, whether that's, you know, a wind ensemble chair
yeah,
or whether that's a conference room, we're talking about IT strategy and what, you know, technology we're
yeah,
going to pursue. Everybody can step up and lead that moment. So that's my fundamental belief at this point in my life is if we can kind of turn that switch on for I can lead from wherever I sit from whatever chair, hopefully that frees up people to see the way they work on teams a little bit differently and a
yeah,
little more powerfully.
yeah. That is powerful. That's totally well said. So I'm curious, of all of these things that you've done and evolved to in your life, what are you the proudest of?
I think my kids
Hmm.
and my granddaughters. I mean, if you just, you know, I start to get verklempt, you know,
Yeah,
my I got a 2 year old and a 6 year old granddaughter, and they are just I would jump over the moon for them.
yeah,
So I think the family part is first and foremost for me. And then oh boy, I don't know. I've had 3 careers, right? You know, I taught, I worked in business, and then I've done what I've done for the last 20 years teaching. And I'm proud of parts of all of that. But I would say the work that I've done in the last decade and what I see emerging and the impact about this lead from wherever you are and and the way of saying not only do it, Joe, but here are the behaviors, here are the things, here's the recipe for how you can do that.
yeah,
It's not just think about it and be more extrovert. No, no. Here are some things that you can actually do and learn and practice that can make you more effective. So yeah, I'm very proud of that. And if I could continue to have a more major impact, uh, yeah, that'd be great.
yeah. So my next question to you is this, and I'm going to tell you the reason why I came up with this question. I interviewed a musician at one point. We had a great conversation, and he was talking to me about a professor that like pretty much operated in the same way with everyone that he dealt with, from family to friends to students, everyone, colleagues, everyone around him. And he had this high level of integrity and everybody loved him. So this is my question. Everybody has a perception of us. We have all these pockets of people that exist in our lives, family, friends, colleagues, readers, but you ultimately run the show. What's your perception of yourself? Who do you think you are, since you're the driving force behind you and your personality and your life?
That's the essence of my work right now, Joe,
Yeah,
is providing a way for people to gather that feedback. And so how do you show up to others
yeah,
is the
yeah,
question. How can I help you understand how you show up to others?
yeah,
So, and the tool that we've developed around our leadership model does exactly that.
yeah,
So it was like I just asked you to ask that question, because we're all curious about God. It's not only what other people think of me, it's more than that. It's
right.
how do I come across in a way that really works and is effective? What am I doing that I just need to continue to do? What am I doing that annoys the heck out of you and I need to stop, for God's sakes? And what can I start to do that, boy, if you could develop this, you'd make yourself and the team a lot better. So it's start, stop, continue. And then in our model, it's 50 plus items that are behavioral that say, these are the things like Battier and on the basketball court, these are the 50 things you can do that can make you that no stats all-star.
Yeah,
So what we've developed is that instrument that people can send out to their peers or their manager or their direct reports, get immediate feedback within a couple of weeks on, hey, this is how people see me.
yeah.
And now I can put together a plan to get better at what you just described. And
So
that's what I'm excited about.
absolutely. So let me ask you this. We get off the call, time machine pulls up in front of your house. You can go back in time and see one event in human history, or you can go into the future and see what's going on. Where are you going to go?
Oh, I'm going to go to the future.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I
I
want to see.
figured.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. You knew that answer,
Yeah,
and that's your answer as well, right?
I think it would be interesting. Yeah, but I will tell you from a sports perspective, I am a Royals fan. And of course, I'm still in shock that we have a dynasty in Kansas City. I grew up in Liberty next to William Jewell College and used to go see these guys in the 80s when no one was there every summer religiously. I'd get football cards from the cops and I'd play
Oh
basketball
man.
with them. They were just regular guys and now they're a dynasty. I don't know how it happened. But my dad grew up in Long Island, born in Brooklyn, raised in Long Island. So I was a Mets fan in the 80s. I would love to be in the stadium when that ball went underneath Billy Buckner's legs to feel that stadium. Just,
Yeah.
but this is the weird thing. Billy Buckner was not supposed to be in the game. The regular player, he got bad knees in late innings. All the humidity and the moisture in the air.
Oh, interesting.
And they put him on the field because there was one more out and they thought that they wanted him to celebrate with the team. There's your addendum to history.
Oh man, that's really cool. If you could go, what would excite you about the future, Joe? If you flipped it and said, I'd like to be around in 50 years or 100 years, because I'm wondering about what happens with this area of technology or the world.
This is what I would say. I'm 51 and I watched in 86 the Challenger explode. And I've always dreamed and thought, what would it be like to see Christy McAuliffe in space teaching me in my classroom? Because we were waiting
Wow.
for it. I would love to see the Elon Musk or the next guy who's going to actually colonize another planet. I want to be on this planet and see them people having a cup of tea on Mars and a Ray Bradbury dream. That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Yeah, yeah, that's neat. Yeah,
Just
because
that,
it's gonna happen. I
yeah.
mean, 100 years, 200 years, whatever. It's gonna happen. We just watched last night the first episode of Franklin.
Okay.
Michael Douglas is playing Franklin, and we
Yeah.
just watched the first episode. So going back,
Yeah.
it's just like, wow, wouldn't it be interesting to have been in the room, and know and feel his power and his ability
Yeah.
to, but yeah. So there's lots of historical places to be, but no, I'd opt for the future. I think AI and IT are just going to continue to change the world, and I'm an optimist about that.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Me
I think
too.
we're gonna manage our way through it. The one thing I wish we would do tomorrow is take nuclear energy to a moonshot effort,
Yeah.
because it is an answer.
Yeah.
It's not just a part of the answer. It could be almost the full answer if we really got serious about energy, et cetera. So there's some big things we could do in the future. And I think eventually we will. And then you got the messed up world around people's cultural differences and values, et cetera, that
Yeah.
we're not going to solve.
But I would love to see that karmic wave that Einstein and Oppenheimer and all those guys didn't want this level of nuclear fission and everything to turn deadly. I think to
Right.
see humanity reverse that into a positive way would karmically pay them back for all of these massive contributions to humanity that they made.
Yeah, and it's a little bit the sub theme of Oppenheimer, right? You know,
Yeah.
the pluses and the minuses of that. So you're an interesting guy, Joe.
Thank you. You are too, man. I've been fascinated by the way you
Yeah,
think and the way you roll. And I love, I'm getting to be an older guy now and thinking about I'm on the downslope of, after 50, you realize, you're seeing the sun's going down.
you're just over the tilt point, right?
Yeah. And I'm starting to feel that more. And I don't consciously think about it. I don't have a fear level. My wife is afraid of all kinds of things, and I'm helping her not to be in that place. But it's hard. So I'm that guy that will go on the precipice of the Grand Canyon just to take a look and see if I can see a bird floating over the Colorado River. But a lot of people stay away. So I'm a little lamenting because I love my time on this planet. And I know that it's getting to that point, but I'm also conscious too of the fact that there's so much good and people like you, and I love doing this because there's so many well-cultured, well-cultivated humans on this planet. It gives me hope that we're all doing the right thing. We're going to land on the right side of history because there's just good people on the planet. I love it.
Absolutely. Optimism is great. Curiosity is great.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed meeting you. If there's anything I can do with you or for you, Joe, in the future, let me know.